Elizabeth saw that I was still working overtime on the proposal. She said with a cold smile, "Why are you working so hard? You only earn 3,000 yuan a month anyway." I didn't want to argue with her. I just continued with my work. Unexpectedly, her son Tommy suddenly ran over. He yanked the power cord out of my computer and shouted, "Because you ignored my mom. Let's see how you can work now. The proposal hasn't been saved. There's only half an hour left until the final submission time." There's simply no time. But Elizabeth said, "Why are you glaring at him? He's just a kid. If you lose that job, you lose it. At most, I'll have my daughter Victoria arrange a position for you. She's a senior executive in a foreign company now." I smiled. I didn't say anything. She wasn't aware. This proposal was actually done by Victoria, and I was the client deciding Victoria's future. I had just finished breakfast when Victoria called me. "Hey, sister, are you free right now? I just finished the proposal. I want to send it to you for your feedback. I'll submit it to your boss after making the changes. I'm counting on you. If I can't secure this deal with your company, I'll be fired. My dear sister, I love you the most. Victoria works in sales at a pharmaceutical company. It's company policy. If there are no results within 3 months, one has to leave. Coincidentally, our hospital plans to purchase a large batch of medical equipment after the new year. If we can establish a partnership with our hospital this time, Victoria won't have to worry about being laid off. She'll also have the opportunity to get promoted to department head. Before last month, our hospital had already chosen a partner for collaboration. But Victoria asked me for help. She asked for a few more days because she hasn't completed her proposal yet. She keeps assuring me that their products are definitely the best. Although I am the head of procurement at the hospital, I am also one of the partners of this private hospital, so I gave her a 2-day grace period. However, my partner reminded me it must not affect the hospital's normal procurement schedule, so before 11 o'clock today, I must see her proposal. After I told Victoria about this, I thought she would submit the proposal right away, but I didn't expect her to just send it over. It's already 9:30. The partner has been urging me. After all, no one wants to work overtime. Although as the client, it's against the rules to help the other party revise the proposal. But considering she is my cousin who grew up with me, I still decided to lend a hand. I didn't change the main content of the proposal. I just helped her adjust the format and background to make the proposal more in line with the aesthetics of the other two partners. Just when I was about to finish the revisions, the computer suddenly went black. I hadn't had the chance to save the file. When I looked up, I saw Elizabeth's 8-year-old son Tommy holding my computer charger. He said, "You don't pay attention to my mom. That's really impolite. Now I wonder how you can work." I glanced at the time. I realized there wasn't enough time for revisions, so I decided to forward the document directly to my partner. Then I prepared to find my phone, but I found the phone was in Tommy's hands. I held back my emotions and said, "Tommy, stop playing around. Quick, give the phone to your sister." As soon as I finished speaking, Elizabeth shouted loudly at me, "He's still a kid. Why are you arguing with him? You don't look like a sister at all." When Elizabeth shouted this, the whole family turned to look at us. I looked helplessly at the angry Elizabeth. I asked her, "What did I do to him? What did I say?" Aunt Margaret saw what was happening over here. She quickly advised, "Don't be angry. Tommy is still young. Don't hold it against him. If you have work that isn't finished, you can come to my house. My house is close to here. It's also quiet." "Thank you, Aunt Margaret. No need. There's no time now. I can just send the materials to the client using my phone." Elizabeth saw Aunt Margaret speaking for me. Then she sarcastically said, "You can't have children yourself, but you're meddling in other people's affairs, thinking of me as your daughter, so I can take care of you in your old age. Don't dream about it. If you can't have children, don't worry about it." Aunt Margaret originally meant well in her persuasion, but she didn't expect to be so enraged by Elizabeth's words that she trembled. Uncle Robert saw Aunt Margaret being wronged, and he was furious. Pointing at Elizabeth, he said, You, hurry up and leave. Our Smith family doesn't welcome you. He, you think I want to come back? If it weren't for Grandma asking me to bring Tommy back to add some joy, I hope our family can prosper. Maybe your daughter-in-law will have a son next year. You think I want to come back?" Grandma said loudly, "All right, stop arguing. Tommy, quickly give your phone back to your sister." Tommy was about to hand it to me. Elizabeth suddenly reached out and snatched the phone away. Phone. All you know is to look at your phone. Don't think I don't know. You're just an ordinary buyer making 3,000 a month. What are you pretending to be busy for? The family sat together. Everyone chatted happily, but you're only focused on playing on the computer and phone. I think you're even less sensible than my Tommy. Forget it. I turned off your phone. Just focus on playing with Tommy. Sometimes, when people encounter something speechless, they actually find it funny. Elizabeth, are you really not going to give my phone back? This plan isn't mine. It's Victoria's. She asked me to help her upload it. Elizabeth rolled her eyes at me. Stop lying to me. I know what you're thinking. Isn't it just that you want a phone? My daughter is an executive at a foreign company. She doesn't need your help. You're just a small buyer. How can you compare to my daughter? It's really ridiculous. My mom sees Elizabeth being so assertive, but she doesn't want to make things unpleasant during the new year. So she advised her, Sis, don't say that. There are no distinctions in work. You don't need to elevate one and belittle another. Hurry up and give me back my phone. Let me finish my work. Tommy felt unhappy hearing everyone talk about Elizabeth. He suddenly burst into tears. He cried out loud, It's not fair, Aunt. It's not fair, sister. I want to go back to Grandma's house. I want to go back to Grandma's house. Elizabeth is heartbroken for her son. Grandma also feels sorry for her grandson. They blamed me and my mom. While squatting on the ground crying, I looked up at the time. The deadline agreed upon with my partner had already passed. Victoria saw her work being messed up by her mom and brother. What would her reaction be? Should she directly confess to Elizabeth that she lost her job? Or should she continue to pretend to be a senior executive in a foreign company? Should she keep subsidizing her family? Speaking of which, Victoria is quite good at pretending. During the college entrance examination, he only scored over 400 points, just barely passing the undergraduate line. Yet he told his family he scored over 670 points. He got into Harvard. After graduating, he struggled to find a job. In the end, he worked as a salesman at a small pharmaceutical company, but he deceived his family into thinking he was a senior executive in a foreign company, with an annual salary of $1 million. To prove the legitimacy of his job, he withdrew 200,000 yuan from his credit card before the new year and sent it to Elizabeth. He withdrew 200,000 yuan from his credit card and sent it to Elizabeth last year. He said it was a bonus from his department. Elizabeth couldn't wait to show off this to the family group every day. She always mocks my unambitious work in a roundabout way, but Victoria has become this way. I can understand that, having a mother like Elizabeth. Either cut off ties or just maintain appearances. Victoria is like this now. It's entirely because of Elizabeth's pressure. In the 4th grade, Victoria participated in an English competition and came in 3rd. This result was actually quite good. Elizabeth should have been happy for her, but when Victoria excitedly brought the certificate home to show Elizabeth's first reaction was not to praise her, but to ask me how many points I scored. Victoria told her, I didn't participate in the English competition, but I got 1st place in the math competition for the whole grade. Elizabeth snatched the certificate away and tore it to shreds. She even slapped Victoria twice. Victoria was stunned by the slap. She forgot about the pain. Then, Elizabeth ordered Victoria to piece together the torn certificate and kneel in the snow while copying it from memory. I swear I will definitely score higher than you in the exams from now on, whenever someone comes to advise. Elizabeth forces Victoria to say it was voluntary, and she has to admit that she is useless. She deserves to be punished. This way, no one dared to step forward and stop her anymore, until Victoria fainted from the cold. Only then did Elizabeth take her to the hospital, and she kept complaining, claiming that Victoria is weak, that she is a useless child. She should never have been allowed to survive back then. Since then, Victoria has told Elizabeth every time she returns from an exam that she is the top of the grade. The teachers in town all know about Elizabeth's extreme behavior, so no one exposed Victoria's lies. Every time Elizabeth sees Victoria's grades, she proudly boasts to others about how excellent her daughter is, about how well she educates her daughter. Lying not only avoids punishment, but also earns praise over time. Victoria also got used to it. She even subconsciously believes she is the top student Elizabeth speaks of. Growing up in such an environment, Victoria's heart gradually became vain. She believed she should be the most dazzling one in the crowd. She asked me not to tell her family about her true situation, and not to reveal that I am actually a partner at that private hospital. I thought of Elizabeth's personality. If she found out, it would definitely cause a scene. So I didn't mention this to my family. She also said, as long as she could successfully collaborate with our hospital, she would be able to get a promotion. and the 200,000 owed could be easily repaid. I wanted to help her. After all, it doesn't matter who makes this money, but I didn't expect things would turn out this way. I didn't want to argue with Elizabeth anymore. I took the phone from her hand, planning to go out. Tommy saw that I wasn't appeasing him, and he snatched the phone. He immediately rushed over to hit me. Elizabeth didn't intervene either. I didn't want to spoil him anymore. I reached out to push him away. As a result, he fell to the ground and cried even harder. Elizabeth suddenly stood up. She rushed towards me. Just when I thought she was going to hit me, my dad grabbed her suddenly. "What's wrong? Are you really going to lay hands on a woman?" My dad let go of Elizabeth. "If you dare to touch me today, I won't mind actually fighting back." Seeing that my dad was really angry, Elizabeth changed her strategy. She turned to Grandma and said, "Mom, I really can't stay here any longer. Both of them are bullying me. Now that the second and third have married, they don't even regard me, their sister, anymore. I'm taking Tommy with me right now." After seeing this, Grandma immediately gave my arm a gentle punch and started to comfort Tommy. "Tommy, stop crying. Grandma has already avenged you." Grandma helped teach her a lesson. Although I didn't feel any pain, my parents' expressions turned quite serious. Grandma didn't care about Mom and Dad's emotions. "Go on. Second one. You just treated your sister like that. And now you want to be tough with me." I hit Fei. "Are you going to hit me today too?" My dad suddenly lost his temper. He said in a low voice, "I dare not." Although Mom and Dad are reluctant to let me go, they didn't say much considering Grandma's age. They didn't say much. I just opened my phone and saw my partner constantly messaging me in the group. He also said he wouldn't care after 11 o'clock. It's up to me how to handle it. It's already 11:30. Since it passed 11 o'clock, my partner hasn't sent another message in the group. Elizabeth saw me staring at the phone screen and said smugly, "What's wrong? Is it true that you lost your job?" "Oh dear. It's nothing. You can let that job go. If a girl can't reach the level of my family's Victoria, just find a suitable person to marry early. Otherwise, you'll be older. Opportunities will be even fewer." Fei, I have to talk to you. Why do you become more impolite as you get older? An adult is talking to you. You always act indifferent. Even my Tommy is better than you. He is much more sensible. If you get married, you'll probably get hit often. My mom was also angry when she saw how rude Elizabeth was. She got upset. "Sis, you went too far with that remark." Elizabeth rolled her eyes. She said with a strange tone, "What did I say? What did I say wrong? How's your daughter's job going? Does she respect her elders? How can you still talk about me after all these years? You haven't even given the Smith family a son, and you raised such an inconsiderate daughter. If I were you, I'd be too ashamed to face anyone by now. Are you done making a scene? What do you really want?" My dad is angry. Uncle Robert, who has been silent, finally spoke up. "Big sister, can you say a little less? Whenever you two appear, there's never a moment of peace at home." All right. Now that you've both married, you've completely forgotten about me. Your sister, right? Have you forgotten who sacrificed their education to work for you to go to school? It was me. Every time my dad and Uncle Robert speak for my mom and Aunt Margaret, Elizabeth has this kind of attitude. They both fall silent. Actually, over the years, the help my family and Uncle Robert's family have given Elizabeth has been more than enough. Even the down payment for her house was contributed by both our families. Thinking of this, I'm even more curious about what expression Elizabeth will have when she finds out Victoria lost her job. I put my phone back in my pocket. "Say it, it's nothing." "Elizabeth, I didn't lose my job. I'm sorry to have made you worry for nothing." Elizabeth is staring at me. She said coldly, "Don't force yourself. I just saw what you said on WeChat. It won't work after 11 o'clock. I didn't respond to her. Let her believe what she wants." Elizabeth noticed that I had no reaction. She became even more pleased with herself. She kept talking. "Oh dear, my Victoria is really capable. She is an executive at a foreign company. She can earn over $1 million a year. She sends me money every month. Just look at yourself. You only earn $3,000 a month. You can't even take care of yourself. Can you? It's really embarrassing," she said while taking out a bank card from her bag. She waved it around. "Look, this is what Victoria just gave me a few days ago. There are 200,000 in it. She said it's a bonus from her department. She just casually gave it to me. Then she said, 'You people, she'll never earn this much money in her lifetime.'" I looked at her coldly. I only found it amusing inside. Victoria went to great lengths to maintain this lie. She actually overdrawn 200,000 from her credit card for Elizabeth. And Elizabeth was still there. feeling proud, completely unaware of where the money came from. Grandma listened to Elizabeth and joined in the praise. Yes, Victoria is really capable. Among the Smith family, she is the most competent. Fei, you should learn from your cousin. Don't just focus on work all day. The little money you earn is simply not enough. My mother couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't help but retort, Sis, Mom, don't say that about Fei. Although Fei doesn't earn much, she is serious about her work. Her colleagues at the hospital all praise her. Moreover, there's no distinction between professions. As long as it is earned through one's own effort, all are worthy of respect. Elizabeth sneered. Respect. Her little salary. Not even enough for a fraction of my Victoria's. What is there to talk about respect? I think she's just incompetent. Still pretends to be a busy person. It's really ridiculous. I couldn't help it anymore. She asked coldly, Elizabeth, are you sure Victoria is really a senior executive in a foreign company? Is that $200,000 really her department's bonus? Elizabeth was taken aback. Her eyes widened immediately. What do you mean by that? Don't talk nonsense here, I said with a smile. Victoria is indeed impressive. No matter how much you envy, it won't help after saying that. I took out my phone, opened WeChat, found the chat record with Victoria, handed it to Elizabeth. Take a look. This is the message Victoria just sent me. Elizabeth took the phone with confusion, looked down to see. Her face immediately turned pale. Victoria said in WeChat, Sister, that $200,000 was withdrawn from my credit card. I'm about to lose my job. I can't even pay back the credit card money. What should I do? Please help me one more time. Elizabeth's hands began to tremble. The phone almost fell to the ground. She looked up at me. Her face was full of surprise. This is impossible. You must be lying. My Victoria would never lie to me. I coldly said to Elizabeth, Victoria is lying to you. It's because you pressured her too much. She has been lying since she was little, just to avoid being beaten, to gain your approval. You really think she's that excellent? In fact, she's not much different from the useless people you mentioned. Elizabeth's complexion changed from white to blue. Her lips trembled. She couldn't speak for a long time. Grandma saw this. She immediately walked over to support her. Oh no, what's wrong with you? Don't listen to Fei's nonsense. How could Victoria lie to you? Elizabeth suddenly pushed Grandma away forcefully. She shouted in agitation. It's impossible. I don't believe it. My Victoria is capable. You all are just jealous of her. I sighed. I shook my head and said, Elizabeth, wake up. Victoria is under a lot of pressure right now. She owes $200,000 on her credit card. She might lose her job soon. If you keep pushing her like this, she will eventually break down. Elizabeth sat helplessly on the ground. Her gaze was vacant. She kept mumbling. It's impossible. It's impossible. How could Victoria lie to me? Seeing Elizabeth like this, Tommy was scared and started crying loudly. He rushed over and tightly hugged Elizabeth. Mom, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. The room is in complete disarray. Grandma and Aunt Margaret are busy comforting Elizabeth. My dad and Uncle Robert are standing nearby. They seem somewhat helpless. I quietly stand to the side. My feelings are indescribably complex. Victoria's lies have finally been exposed, but I know in my heart, this matter is far from over. Elizabeth suddenly looks up. Her gaze is sharp as she stares at me. Her tone is filled with blame. It's all because of you. You're the one who caused this. If it weren't for your interference, Victoria wouldn't be like this. I will definitely not let you off the hook. As she says this, she rushes over to hit me. My dad and Uncle Robert quickly hold her back. Elizabeth struggles. She keeps shouting hurtful words. The scene becomes chaotic for a moment. Just then, Victoria's phone suddenly rings. Elizabeth's phone vibrates incessantly on the ground. Victoria's name lights up on the screen. Elizabeth was momentarily stunned. It was as if she saw a glimmer of hope. She immediately grabbed her phone. She connected the call. Her voice trembled a bit, but it was filled with anticipation. Victoria, you need to tell Mom the truth. Are you a senior executive at a foreign company? Do you earn $1 million a year? Is that $200,000 your department's bonus? Hurry up and tell me. On the other end of the line, Victoria clearly didn't expect Elizabeth to ask so directly. She was silent for a few seconds. Her voice remained calm. It even carried a hint of a smile. Mom, what's wrong with you? Of course I am. I already told you. Didn't I? Why are you only asking this now? Elizabeth listened to Victoria's words. Her expression improved slightly, but her eyes still carried doubt. Then why? Then why did you send that kind of message to Fei? She said you were lying to me. They said you owe 200,000 on your credit card. And they also said your job is about to be at risk. What on earth happened? Victoria's tone remained relaxed. Mom, don't believe what Sister Fei says. She might be feeling unbalanced inside. How could I possibly owe money on my credit card? That 200,000 is clearly my bonus. Regarding work, I have indeed been quite busy lately, but how could I possibly lose my job? I'm an executive at a foreign company. After listening to Victoria, Elizabeth's confusion slowly faded away. Instead, a look of pride appeared on her face. She lifted her head and gave me a fierce glare. Then she spoke into the phone. Victoria, you come home right now. I'll be back soon. I want you to confront Fei in person. Let's see what else she can say. Victoria looked a bit troubled. Mom, I'm still at the company right now. There's an important meeting today. It might be hard to get away. Elizabeth suddenly raised her voice. Forget about any meetings. You need to come back to me right now. If you don't come back, I'll consider you no longer my daughter. Elizabeth was firm in her stance. Victoria felt helpless. She had no choice but to agree. Okay. Mom, please don't be angry. I'll be back soon. She hung up the phone. Elizabeth looked at me with a smug expression, as if she had won a victory. Fei, didn't you say Victoria was lying to me? Wait until she comes back. Let's see what else you have to say. I snorted coldly. I didn't say anything. Victoria's lies were about to be exposed, but she was still holding on. I was just waiting to see how she would handle Elizabeth's questioning when she got home, how she would respond to Elizabeth's inquiries. About half an hour later, Victoria hurriedly returned. As soon as she walked in, she saw the room in complete disarray. Elizabeth is sitting on the sofa. She looks very pale. I am standing beside her, watching her coldly. Victoria is trying to stay calm. She walks over to Elizabeth with a smile. Mom, I'm back. What's wrong with you? Why were you in such a hurry to call me back? Elizabeth tightly holds Victoria's hand. Her expression is serious. Victoria, you need to tell me the truth. Are you really a senior executive at a foreign company? Is that 200,000 really your bonus? Victoria's smile pauses for a moment, but it quickly returns to normal. Mom, why are you asking this again? Didn't I tell you already? I really am a senior executive at a foreign company. That 200,000 is indeed my bonus. Why did you suddenly start doubting me? Elizabeth looks at Victoria. She asks seriously, why did you send that kind of message to Fei? She said you owe money on your credit card. I'm about to lose my job. Is this true? Victoria's expression changed slightly, but she forced a smile and said immediately, Mom, don't listen to what Fei says. She's definitely envious of me, trying to sow discord between us. How could I possibly owe credit card debt? That 200,000 is indeed my bonus. Elizabeth still looked at me suspiciously. And show me your proof of employment and the bank statement for that 200,000. I want to see it with my own eyes. Victoria's expression was starting to crack. She forced out a smile and said, Mom, those things are at the company. How could I possibly carry them with me? If you don't believe me, I'll take you to the company another day to see. Okay. Elizabeth suddenly slammed the table hard. The noise suddenly grew louder. Victoria, stop trying to fool me. Just tell me honestly, are you lying or not? If you deceive me again, I will consider you no longer my daughter. Victoria trembled at Elizabeth's shout. The smile on her face vanished instantly. She lowered her head. After a moment of silence, she finally couldn't hold back her tears. Mom, I'm sorry. I lied to you. I'm not some executive from a foreign company. I'm just an ordinary salesperson. The 200,000 was taken out from my credit card. I'm about to lose my job too. I'm sorry, Mom. I really can't take it anymore. Elizabeth heard Victoria's words. She was completely stunned, like being struck by lightning. She couldn't speak for a long time. Her complexion changed from pale to white. Her lips trembled. Her eyes were filled with shock and disappointment. She said, You actually lied to me. You actually deceived me for so long. Elizabeth's voice trembled. Teardrops keep falling down. Victoria suddenly kneels down. She tightly hugs Elizabeth's legs. She cries heartbrokenly, Mom, I'm sorry, I really didn't want to lie to you, but you always force me. I have no choice. I can only lie, I'm sorry. Elizabeth forcefully pushes Victoria away. She hoarsely shouts, Leave. I don't have a daughter like you. You have lied to me for so long. How can I still trust you? Victoria slowly stops crying. Her gaze shifts from guilt to anger. She suddenly stands up from the ground. She points at Elizabeth. Her voice trembles, but her tone is very firm. Mom, don't say anything more. It was wrong of me to lie to you, but haven't I given you enough money over the years? That 200,000 was what I withdrew from my credit card. It was my last bit of money. Let me go now, okay? I'm leaving, but you need to pay me back that 200,000. As soon as Elizabeth heard that Victoria wanted her to pay back the money, her expression immediately turned grim. Pay back the money. You're dreaming. That money is what you owe me. Why should I pay you back? I've supported you for so many years. I've provided for your food and clothing, and I even supported your education. What's wrong with giving you 200,000? That's your obligation. Victoria was so angry that she trembled all over. Her voice became much louder. It should be given. Did you raise me just so I could give you money? From childhood to now, all you've done is hit me, scold me, and force me to come in first place. What else have you done? I've already repaid what I owed you long ago. That 200,000 is my last lifeline. You must pay me back. Elizabeth let out a cold laugh. Her tone was filled with sarcasm. Lifeline. You're just an ordinary salesperson. How much more development can there be? That money would be wasted on you. It's better to give it to my Tommy. He's the future of our Smith family. He's going to apply to Harvard and MIT. Victoria got even angrier when Elizabeth mentioned Tommy. Her anger only grew. Tommy, all you know is Tommy. He is your beloved son. I'm just a useless burden, right? Since you are so biased, then I won't have to humiliate myself anymore. If you don't pay me back today, I will never let this go. Victoria rushed forward as she spoke. She grabbed Elizabeth by the collar and shook her vigorously. Give me my money back. Elizabeth was startled by Victoria's actions, but she quickly reacted. She pushed Victoria away with force and shouted, "What are you doing? Do you dare to lay a hand on me, you disobedient child? Today, I will teach you a good lesson." The two immediately got into a scuffle. Elizabeth scratched Victoria's face with her nails. Victoria desperately grabbed Elizabeth's hair. The room was a complete mess. Grandma and my dad hurried over to mediate the fight, but they were both hitting each other so hard that their eyes were red. No one could pull them apart. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. My dad shouted loudly. He tried hard to separate the two. Just at that moment, Elizabeth accidentally slipped. Her whole body fell backward. The back of her head hit the sharp corner of the coffee table hard. Suddenly, there was a loud thud. Elizabeth fell to the ground. Blood slowly oozed from the back of her head. Victoria witnessed Elizabeth fall. The back of her head hit the coffee table. Blood immediately stained the floor. Her face turned pale all at once. She stood there in shock. Her mind went blank. "Mom. Mom," Victoria's voice trembled. She called out, but Elizabeth has already fainted. She lies on the ground, motionless. Grandma and my dad immediately ran over. They frantically checked Elizabeth's condition. Victoria stood there in shock. Her hands and feet felt cold. Only one thought crossed her mind. This is bad. I've caused a big trouble. Her heart was racing. There was a buzzing in her ears. It felt like the whole world was spinning. She glanced at Elizabeth, lying on the ground, then looked at the panicking crowd around her. Suddenly, she turned and ran out the door. "Victoria, where are you going?" My dad shouted after her, but Victoria ignored him. She ran straight out of the house, disappearing into the night. My dad intended to chase after her, but seeing Elizabeth's condition was more urgent. He quickly took out his phone and dialed 120. Grandma sat on the ground, powerless, weeping uncontrollably. This is truly a calamity. What on earth is going on? The ambulance arrived quickly. They took Elizabeth to the hospital. The doctors worked for several hours to save her. Finally, he shook his head helplessly and said, "The patient suffered a severe impact to the head. Large amount of bleeding in the cranial cavity. Rescue efforts were unsuccessful. Has already passed away." My dad, upon hearing this news, the whole person suddenly slumped down in the chair. Both hands tightly cover the face. The shoulders keep shaking. Grandma cried so hard that she almost fainted, constantly mumbling in my mouth, "My daughter, why did you just leave like that?" Just at this moment, Victoria has already run to the other side of the city. She is hiding in a remote, small hotel. The whole person is curled up on the bed. The scene of Elizabeth falling keeps replaying in my mind. She trembled as she took out her phone. Want to make a call to someone. The hands can shake too much. The screen won't even turn on. Victoria kept repeating it. "I killed my mom. I killed my mom." Her tears flowed uncontrollably. She knew in her heart the police would eventually catch her, but she still wanted to hide, even if it was just for one more day, one more hour. But the speed of the police's actions far exceeded her expectations. The next morning, there was a knock on the hotel door. Victoria was startled awake from bed. Her heart was racing. It felt like it was about to jump out of her throat. Open the door. Police. A serious voice came from outside. Victoria understood she had nowhere to run. She trembled as she opened the door. 2 police officers stood at the entrance. They looked at her coldly. Victoria, you are suspected of involuntary manslaughter. Please come with us. Victoria did not struggle. She obediently let the police handcuff her. When she was taken to the police car, she was completely stunned. It felt like all her emotions vanished at once. Meanwhile, the house was in complete disarray. Elizabeth's passing left the whole family in deep sorrow. Tommy was also greatly frightened by this sudden blow. He curled up in a corner. His gaze was vacant. He kept repeating, "Mom, Mom." Grandma wanted to go over and hug him, but Tommy pushed Grandma away like a frightened animal. He screamed and ran off. His mental state was clearly deteriorating. He became dazed and foolish. He couldn't even handle the simplest conversation. My dad saw all of this. He felt particularly upset, feeling particularly distressed. He not only has to arrange Elizabeth's funeral, but he also has to take care of the mentally troubled Tommy and the grandma who is about to give up. The whole family seemed to collapse overnight. I stood by. My feelings were particularly complex. This farce ended in such a way. It truly caught everyone by surprise. Elizabeth's stubbornness and Victoria's deceit, along with Tommy's recklessness, ultimately led to an irreversible tragedy. Victoria was sentenced to prison. Tommy was sent to a mental hospital for treatment. I can't help but sigh. A family like this. Perhaps it's better if we scatter.